Welcome to video podcast number 36. This one is not going to have a portion. It's not going to be split like most of my other recent videos. But I do like that pattern, and a lot of my fans, followers, supporters, and clients do like my format, where I do rant, rambles, and admonishments for the general public, and I give virtually advice-oriented content for my Patreon subscribers. And so yeah, I've been getting a lot of great feedback. It's great. It's great. Because see, among my Patreon subscribers, it's exclusively guys that want to learn from me. It's exclusively guys that want to learn from me and absorb knowledge, wisdom, insight, and advice from me. And it's just so cool. It's no drama. Whereas, as you know, when it comes to speaking to the general public, it's a mix. It's a mix of people who like me, support me, and they enthusiastically want to learn from me. But then you got, all these haters and critics that want to try to question me, challenge me, disagree with me, and all this other stuff. So yeah, this new format so far is working out for me fine. But yeah, this video podcast, I'm not going to be splitting. I would say 90% chance it's going to be short, probably roughly a half hour or so. Because among other reasons, I'm hungry than a motherfucker. I gotta get something to eat. Speaking of eating. It's my second favorite flavor, as you know. Squeezed lemonade. Squeezed. This is actually my very last bottle. I gotta go to the grocery store and get me some Vitamin Water Zero, excuse me. So yeah, this whole video podcast number 36 is going to be for the general public. What's the bad news in that? The bad news is that means it's not going to really be advice-driven content. It's going to be more rant/ramble/admonishment. No, actually, I just want to share a few thoughts. Obviously, I got a lot of feedback from my last video podcast. It's funny, and I mentioned this in at least one, if not two, of my previous video podcasts. It's funny when people don't know you in real life. See, what the internet has created is a lot of internet relationships, internet-based friendships. Like, there's some guys I'm cool with via the internet that I've never met them in person. Never hung around them like for 1 minute in person. So because of that, most people are probably not 100% transparent when they're on the internet. There's some people who are, but like, I had some people, including a guy I've known for years, but I've never met him in person. We are what I would call internet friends. And he was like, "Damn, Alan, you was going ham on that last video, man. I didn't know, I didn't recognize you, man. I didn't know you had that side in you." But what's interesting is that anybody who's interacting with me in real life there's nothing in that video podcast I did, my very last one, that would be surprised when they see my, I guess you call my angry side, riled up side, whatever. So it just trips me out that people like, like, damn. This is like at least minimum the second video podcast I've done where I've gotten that type of reaction, if not the third or fourth. I guess a lot of people had me pegged as some kind of mild-mannered dude. Maybe that benefits me in some respects when people assume I'm this cool, calm, collected, mild-mannered guy 100% of the time. I mean, I think all human beings have a wide range of emotions. Like one of the things, speaking of that, yeah, some people I heard, or saw, I should say, instead of heard, reading comment sections, whether, not so much in my own comment section of the video podcasts I visit where people mention my name. Some people said, man, Alan Roger Currie, man, he's an emotional dude, man. He's an emotional dude. And some of them said that with a connotation like that's an insult. Like, Alan, man, he's an emotional type dude. I would argue that every human being is emotional. Some people reveal their emotions more frequently than others. But to me, if you're... ain't nobody like Leonard Nimoy's character of Spock on Star Trek. You wouldn't be a normal human being if you're not emotional. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you something in all seriousness. I would be wary of people who rarely, if ever, show emotion. Because studies have usually shown most people who are just totally emotionless are sociopaths. That's one of the characteristics of being what's known as a sociopath. Is sociopaths, they don't experience empathy. They don't experience any type of emotional empathy for other people. They're almost they're as close to emotionless as a human being can be. So people who hardly ever show emotions, that means them motherfuckers are sociopaths, man. I'm wary of people like that. But oh yeah, I mean, shit. Ain't nothing to be ashamed of about having emotions. A lot of men have that issue too. Like, it's women who should be emotional, but men. Shit, you remember, if you old school basketball fan, what did Michael Jordan do when he won his first NBA championship? Man, he cried like a baby. He cried like a baby when he won his first NBA championship. His wife had to console him, he was crying so much. I want to say when he won his fourth NBA championship after his father had gotten murdered, he also went in the locker room and cried big time. Now, would somebody try to suggest that Michael Jordan's a punk or something because he cried? Shoot. A lot of athletes are emotional. Shoot. I would say most of your top athletes are emotional. LeBron James, I've seen him display emotions. Steph Curry, I've seen him display emotions. A lot of actors, actresses, singers, musicians are emotional. So if you're one of those men that believe in being, the thing you got to watch out for is what's known as displaced emotions. Emotions that are being directed in a manner that is more to your detriment than to your benefit. That's the only time you really got to watch out for your emotions, is when your emotions are going to ultimately lead to some results in your life that are more detrimental to you than they are beneficial to you. But other than that, emotions ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. But yeah, man. So yeah, I'm my emotional side, and more specifically, I definitely got my angry side, man. I can share some stories with you, with some of you guys, who the ones who think I'm all like mild mannered. Shoot, I can share some stories that were at minimum raise your eyebrows. Like, damn, Alan Roger Currie a trip. Shoot, I've come close to. Well, I keep some of my stories to myself. Let's just say, yeah, I know I've been using the N-word more frequently than I ever have before. Probably in my 9 years of doing Blog Talk Radio, I hardly ever used the N-word. But I already said this on at least one other previous video. I got, as a black man, I would say I got my mild-mannered, middle-class black man side to me. And then I got another side to me that's just what I would call just a straight-up street nigga side. And again, most people who know me in real life, they've known that for years about me. But yeah, I mean, if you push the right buttons with me, my street nigga side will definitely come out. That's why I joked in one previous video podcast. I don't know how I got on the subject of guns, but I said, I'm 54 years old. I've never owned a gun. Never. Closest I came to owning a gun was after my father passed away. I was temporarily in possession of my father's gun, and my father had a gun. He actually had 2 guns. And my brother quickly took them away from me. He's like, oh, no, bro. He's like, no. No, I ain't leaving Dad's gun in possession of you. Now, I would preface my comments by saying I've never committed an act of violence. I've never had to go to jail or prison for any act of violence. So I would say I'm generally not a violent type dude unless somebody provokes, violence with me. But let's just say I can be a bit of a hothead here and there. I can be a bit of what they call a hothead. Yeah. So anyway, I had a few people write me with this observation. Well, I had a lot of feedback in the last 36 hours or so. One comment / criticism I got is that, Alan, I like you, I respect you, I love your books, but why do you talk about these beefs with other YouTube hosts? Why are you why is that important to you that you feel like you gotta talk about it? Are you a person that cannot handle somebody disagreeing with you or disagreeing with an opinion of yours? Fair question. No. Well, my simple answer would be, I don't have a problem with people disagreeing with me. I don't have a problem with people disagreeing with me. I guess what I have a problem with, why have I had a problem to do with me mentioning my last video podcast? See, here's how I feel, man. I feel like if I tell somebody that I don't really want to be associated with them anymore, they should just accept that. Period. They should just accept that. To me, that's not rocket science. That's not anything complicated. I think if I tell anybody, yo, I don't really want to be associated with you anymore, even if that hurts their feelings, I think they should just accept that, man. Period. And what's interesting, and I think I might have mentioned this in the previous video podcast, I've had more issues with that almost on a business level than I have on just a purely personal and social level. Like a lot of times on a purely personal and social level, when I've told people based in so many words or just very directly, I don't want to be friends with you no more, I'd say the vast majority of people, even if they were disappointed or hurt, you know, they accepted it and we went our separate ways. But man, I've had probably at least 4, 5, 6 instances on a business level when I told people that I didn't want to be aligned with them anymore business wise. Man, they took the shit hard, man. Like they almost like refused to accept the shit, man. And it leaves me scratching my head. I don't understand that. If somebody told me, man, they didn't want to do business with me, man, I would just accept that shit and move on. If I'm not wanted by somebody, then I'm going to leave them alone. But you got people, some people, man, they don't want to accept when you don't want to do business with them. I honestly, the person I am, I don't understand that. I literally don't understand that. And so to answer, you know, the people wrote me and asked me like, why do I keep referencing this, for lack of a better term, beef I got with this other YouTube host? It really comes down to this. This is a person who I specifically told them in non-antagonistic terms that I didn't want to be associated with them anymore on a business level. I didn't tell this person to change their personality or tell them that they're a bad human being, that, you know, they shouldn't be on YouTube. I didn't tell them that. I just simply told them that I don't want my brand, my books, my brand associated with them any longer. And you would think this person would say, okay, cool, and just leave it alone. But they keep wanting. See, here's how bad it is. Here's how bad it is. This person has associated him with me and my brand so much that one of this person's followers almost loosely attributed one of my books to him on his Blog Talk Radio show. He told this guy, thank you for introducing me to the concept of the possibility of sex. My book, as you know, that's the title of my book. But this person said to this other YouTube host, thank you for introducing me to the concept of the possibility of sex. I've heard another follower say, thank you for introducing me to the concept of being upfront and straightforward with women. That's my concept. That's my concept. But see, because he's done such a clever job of associating himself with me by repeatedly mentioning my name and my brand, people almost loosely associate my concepts, my philosophies, with him. And that's the very exact reason why I'm making such a public deal. So for those of you asking me, why isn't this something that could be handled privately? Why is it an issue that needs to be even remotely discussed publicly? That's the reason. Is because I'm going to say this and then I'm going to move on to a couple other things. And like I said, I don't want to keep this too long. I'm hungry. I want to get something to eat. See, what he's done is almost kind of clever. What this guy done, this other YouTube host that, again, that I've been beefing with, if you want to call it that, is done as clever is that If he just came out from the get-go, say, just doing nothing but criticizing me, insulting me, trashing my books, then it would be easy for both my followers to view him as a hater, a harsh critic of mine, as well as his followers to view our relationship as being very antagonistic and that we want nothing to do with each other. But think about it. I want you to marinate about this. If you know about clever strategies, clever tactics, why would that be of detriment to him? For the general public to be convinced that I don't want anything to do with him and he doesn't want anything to do with me. Why would that be to his disadvantage? Marinate on that. Marinate on that. I know I got a lot of smart listeners. Marinate on that. Is it coming to you? Any light bulbs popping up on the top of your head? See, again, if I had to give this person at least a few points for cleverness, and a lot of people operate like this, it's almost more strategically to his advantage to give me just as many, if not more, compliments and then strategically throw in jabs. That's more to his benefit than to just flat out, just across the board criticize me. If you know anything about manipulative tactics, and you know how I study people who have manipulative tendencies, if you know about manipulative tactics, I'm not going to go into full detail. I'm going to let most of y'all figure out. I'm not going to spell it out for you. I'm not going to give you the easy. But let's just say, in regards to my, again, for lack of a better word, beef with this other YouTube host, it is to one degree or another, it is to his advantage to primarily compliment me and act like we're cool and then strategically throw in little criticisms here, disagreements here, heated debates with my issues here. I always stay one step ahead of the game. I know that. In other words, I know the game he's trying to play. And see, again, without getting into specific details, my number one recourse is, like somebody asked me a couple of days after I did my video podcast and they heard my rant, that was a part of my rant was directed at this guy. Somebody said, well, Alan, why don't you just ignore him? Again, I'm not going to give you easy answers. I'm going to ask you to think about that. Why would it be to my disadvantage to just simply ignore him? Why would it be to my disadvantage, given everything I just said up to this point? Why would it be to my disadvantage to just flat out ignore this guy? Think about it. Again, I'm going to give you all the benefit of the doubt of that you're fairly intelligent people. Why would it be to my disadvantage to completely ignore him, particularly knowing that he's not just across the board criticizing me? It's like for every 2 criticisms this guy has of me, he probably will express 4 or 5 compliments of me. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? I know. I want you can write me if you think you know. You can either write in my comment section below if you want to be public about it, or you can write me privately at coaching@mo1. Again, I'm not going to spell things out for you. But again, if you know anything about, psychological tactics with people, more specifically manipulative tactics with people, you know why is always to somebody's advantage. I'm going to give you one simple analogy and then I'm going to shut up about it and move on. But let's say I work for Burger King. Okay, I'm working for Burger King. And I don't know. Either one or two things. I don't like the fact that a McDonald's franchise is pulling more customers than my Burger King franchise. Or secondly, I used to work for McDonald's and they kind of wrongfully terminated me. I feel like they unfairly terminated me. Okay, got that? Let's go with that second scenario. I used to work for McDonald's and they fired me and I feel like they unfairly fired me, all right? And now I got a Burger King franchise. Now, if I come out and just say, McDonald's ain't shit. Their food items ain't shit. Their food items are garbage. Their food items are garbage. God, everything on their menu item is just garbage. What would be the general public's perception of me? That I'm just a hater. That I'm just a bitter, resentful hater. I'm a scorned former employee. You got that? Okay. That's what would happen if I just came out and said nothing but critical things about McDonald's after they unfairly fired me. People would say, oh, Alan he's just bitter. He used to work for McDonald's. They fired him for XYZ reason. He didn't feel like it was fair. And now he's just bitter. He's just a bitter, now he's become this bitter hater. Now, let's say I took a different approach and I said, you know what? McDonald's was one of the best experiences of my life. I love McDonald's, man. Some of the food, man, I actually miss a lot of their menu items. The Big Mac, unparalleled. The Big Mac is, I don't know if any fast food burger can compare to the Big Mac. That's a great burger. French fries, oh man, who can compare to McDonald's French fries? I miss the joy that I used to see on the customers' faces when they would eat a Big Mac and French fries. And quarter pounder with cheese, I don't know. Just my personal opinion. You know, quarter pounder with cheese, got such a high fat content, such a high cholesterol content, I don't know. Now the Whopper with cheese over here at Burger King, yeah, if I was just given a one-on-one with those two things, I would have to go with the quarter pounder with cheese. I mean, I would have to go with the Whopper with cheese. The Whopper with cheese just, in my opinion, just stomps McDonald's quarter pounder. But you know, you can't compare with that Big Mac, them fries, them chicken McNuggets. Now think about that, how that makes me come across to the general public compared to the first scenario. Giving all these compliments to McDonald's. But then I throw in little strategic jabs like I just did with the quarter pounder with cheese versus the Whopper with cheese. Think about what would be the public perception of my comments, the media perception of my comments. And now you're saying, aha. Like Eddie Murphy in Coming to America. Aha. Aha. I get it now, Alan. That's what this guy's been doing. That's what this guy's been doing. So, just think about when it would be to McDonald's advantage to completely ignore me, the former McDonald's employee, now got my Burger King franchise, and think about when it'd be halfway worth their while to offer a few public responses. Think about that. Marinate on that. Now, moving on. Since this is going to be somewhat related, about Disagreements. I've said a number of times that I think people, including YouTube hosts, 2 dating coaches, 2 human beings can have respectful disagreements on various issues. I think they can. I would generally define most disagreements into 2 categories: respectful disagreements and disrespectful disagreements. Plain and simple. Here's what I see happen a lot. See, a lot of people, if there's one word that I punch a lot in my books, and a lot of people punch in just these days in social media in general and on YouTube, is people will punch the word truth. Truth. I'm all about truth. Gosh darn it, I'm all about truth. I'm here to tell you the truth. No one on YouTube is going to give you as much truth as I'm going to give you. I'm all about truth. Truth, 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 truth. That was almost a tongue twister saying that many times. Truth. Here's the deal, man. Or ladies too. I always say man, but I know I have female listeners. Matter of fact, I got a lot of female feedback in the last 36 hours. Women are funny. I'll leave that alone for now. I'll leave that alone for now. See, I've always said, if people read a lot of my articles, or you listen to me on my 9 years of Blog Talk Radio, there's at minimum 2 types of truth. There's what's known as subjective truth and objective truth. Let me repeat that. There's 2 types of truth. There is subjective truth, and then there is objective truth. What's the difference? What's the difference? Here's the difference. Let's say in Chicago, right now, it is 75 degrees. Okay? In Chicago, it is 75 degrees. And I've agreed to meet 2 of my friends I went to college with for lunch. And they're both from different cities. They're traveling to Chicago from 2 different cities. One friend is traveling from a city where it was 105 degrees. I know it gets that hot in Phoenix and that hot in Houston and a few other cities. So let's say the city one friend is traveling from, it was 105 degrees. And it's 75 degrees in Chicago. Then I got another friend that's traveling from a city where it was 45 degrees. 45 degrees in the city that this other friend was coming from. I can't think of a city that right now it would be 45 degrees in. Maybe in Alaska or something. I don't know. I'm sure there's at least one city somewhere in the United States or in the country in general where it's right now it's about 45 degrees. Okay? So I'm meeting 2 friends for lunch in Chicago. And in Chicago it's 75 degrees. And one friend came from a city where it was 105 degrees. And another friend came from a city where it was 45 degrees. Now, as you can probably anticipate, what are some of the comments that's going to be made? The friend that came from the city where it was 105 degrees is going to be like, oh my God, it feels so good here. It feels just right. It actually feels a little nippy. Feels like nice and cool, nice and breezy. I like it. Feels good here. The other friend's going to say, oh, it feels hot as hell here. I mean, I'm not complaining too much, but damn, it's hot as hell here. Shoot, I'm sweating. I'm burning up in my outfit. So if one friend says it feels breezy and even nippy, and another friend says it feels hot as hell, who's telling the truth and who's lying? Who's telling the truth and who's lying? marinate for just a few seconds before I give you the answer. Out of those two friends, based on their comments, who's telling the truth and who's lying? The fact of the matter is, they're both telling the truth. They're both telling the truth. But they're not telling the objective truth. But subjectively, they're both telling the truth. The objective truth of the situation is that in Chicago, it is 75 degrees. That's the objective truth of the situation. It is 75 degrees. But the subjective truth is that one friend came from a city where it was 45 degrees. So based on where they came from, their experiences, their perspective, it is now hot as hell in Chicago. From the other friend's perspective, based on where they came from, their experiences, is breezy and nippy. So they're both telling the subjective truth. They both, if they were to say, it's hot, if one friend was to say, it's hot here in Chicago, and that's the truth. I'm telling the truth. It's hot here. You can't say that that person's lying. Because when you examine their perspective, they are indeed telling the truth. Just like the other friend, when they say it's breezy and nippy here. This is not hot weather. This is breezy and nippy weather. You can't say that person's lying because based on their perspective, that friend is also telling the truth. Again, they're both telling the subjective truth. Get it? Got that? Get it? Got it good. Okay. Let me give you another scenario that's similar. Let's say there's an argument presented for a debate and discussion. Okay? And a moderator of this debate or discussion asked the question, which gender is more horny for sex? Men or women? Which gender is more horny for sex? Men or women? And you got two people who contribute to this discussion and debate. You got one guy who's, let's say both men have dealt with 20 women over the last 4 years. Over the last 4 years, two men each have dealt with 20 women. No more, no less. 20 women, exactly. Okay? And one guy, his experience has been, he's always had to beg his girlfriends for sex. He's had to beg women for sex. Plead with women. Excuse me, that was a nasty burp. Hold on. Excuse me. This one guy, he had to plead with his ex-wife, his ex-girlfriends for sex. And a few other women, he had to pay them money. He had to wine and dine them. Take them to fancy restaurants, buy them gifts in order to motivate them to have sex with him. So he says, you know what? I'm convinced women just do not like sex as much as men do. I'm convinced of that fact. And that is the truth. That's the truth. No one can deny that. That is the truth. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. The other guy who's involved in this discussion debate, guess what his experience has been? Every woman he's dealt with was horny as fuck. They was always bugging him for sex. Wanting to fuck 3, 4, 5 times per day. Even when he is at work, women was calling, can you just come over my place on your lunch hour and fuck me? can me and my girlfriend come over your house and just take turns sucking your dick and riding your dick? I'll pay you money. I'll pay some of your bills this month if you just promise to fuck me at least 4 days this week, if not 5, 6, 7 days this week. To the point where he's like, damn, baby, God, man, y'all bugging the shit out of me. God damn, what's wrong with you? Why are you so fucking horny? Why are you such a nymphomaniac? By the way, a nymphomaniac, that's a specific female term. Doesn't apply to men. That's a woman with an insatiable desire for sex. So yeah, this one guy's experiences have been that women just always just horny as fuck. And he says women are hornier for sex than men are, and that's the truth. That's the truth. Women are hornier than men are, and that's the truth. Now, of those two guys, who's lying and who's telling the truth? Who's lying and who's telling the truth? Who's giving you more factual data? Is any one of those two guys' truth more valid than the other person's truth? What say you? Just like the weather scenario I gave, and the varying temperatures, it's the same scenario here. Neither one of those guys is lying. They're both telling the truth, but they're telling the subjective truth. Again, subjective truth should never be confused with objective truth. But subjectively, they're both telling the truth based on their own experiences, their perspective. That's why you notice when you read most of my articles and read my books, I might slip up here and there and present things subjective truth as if it's objective truth. I ain't gonna say I'm never, ever, ever guilty of that. I probably make that mistake here and there. But generally, when I present subjective truth, I always, usually, not all the time, again, I slip up here and there, but usually I will preface it by saying, in my experience, this is what I believe to be the truth about women, or about relationships, or about attraction and seduction, etc. In my experience. Because see, using this very discussion topic that I just used as an example, I've talked about this on my Blog Talk Radio show. See, in real life, I would be in line with that guy who dealt with a bunch of horny women. Most women I've dealt with in my life, I used to joke about this all the time on Blog Talk Radio. I've never dealt with a woman that was less hornier than me. Like, almost ever. I've never been in a short-term or long-term monogamous or non-monogamous relationship with a woman that was less hornier than me. At bare minimum, every woman I've dealt with was just as horny for sex as I was. And more often than not, most of the women I've dealt with, they were far more hornier for sex than I was. I remember I used to do some of my Blog Talk Radio shows, and when that would come up for discussion, I would always talk about how a lot of women I've dealt with, I've had to tell them, like, bitch, what is wrong with you? Why you want my dick so frequently? I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I was flattered by it, but sometimes it actually became irritating. I've dealt with women that wanted to fuck, like, 4, 5, 6 times a day. And I'd be like, damn, what the fuck is your problem? So honestly, and I'm not saying this to insult people who haven't had the same experiences. Because as a dating coach, I try to empathize with a lot of men who haven't had the same exact experience as me. Because I know most of my clients and followers haven't had the exact same experiences as me. But that said, When I listen to stories when guys will share with me that, man, I have to beg my wife for sex. Like I talked about that, I think, in a recent video podcast where I had a client come to me, he's married, and he literally told me he has to beg his wife for sex. Like literally beg his wife for sex. He said he only averages having sex with his wife like once or twice a month. Now, again, I empathize with that as a dating coach, but if I had to like compare it just specifically to my own experiences, I'll be honest, man, I can't relate to that, man. I can't relate to that. So when I hear guys try to present the argument, particularly as an objective fact, as objective truth, and see, this is one of the things I ain't gonna lie. I have my various pet peeves with people. That's one of my pet peeves. I don't like when people present subjective truth as objective truth. I don't like that. I do not like that. That is a major pet peeve of mine. And again, I will not sit here and say I've never been guilty of that myself, because I know for a fact I probably have. I think the times I have been guilty of that have been few and far between. But I know for a fact over the years I've been unintentionally guilty of that. But yeah, man, I hate when people present subjective truth as objective truth. So using first the weather example, a good example, somebody thinking about those two friends that hooked up with Chicago and they both came from different cities with different temperatures. An example of you presenting subjective truth as objective truth would be if the person who came from the city where it was 45 degrees was to say to the person, my other friend, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. Anybody with half a brain knows it's hot as hell in Chicago. You must be stupid. I can't believe you can't see that. Damn, what's wrong with you? Are you like lacking in intelligence or something? You would have to be an idiot not to realize how hot it is here in Chicago. See, when you start throwing out those type of attacks and personal jabs and stuff and try to undermine this person's perspective, that's when you're basically trying to present subjective truth as objective truth. Again, in that scenario, the only thing that's objectively true is that it's 75 degrees in Chicago. But yeah, if my one friend was trying to make my other friend feel stupid for not agreeing with him or her that it feels hot as hell in Chicago, that's a representative of that person trying to present subjective truth as objective truth. And same with the which gender is hornier discussion and debate. If the guy who had to beg women for sex, plead with women for sex, pay money to women to motivate them to have sex with him, was to say to the other guy, you don't know what you're talking about. Shit, everybody know men want sex way more than women do. Everybody know women are just flat out not interested in sex as much as men do. Everybody knows that. You're an idiot if you believe otherwise. I challenge you to present me with some type of scientific data that backs up your disagreement, because everybody knows that women are less horny for sex. See, that would be an example of that person trying to present their subjective truth as objective truth. It's just like, if I had to use myself as an example, since I've been in this recent MGTOW type discussion and debate, it would be like if I was to say, everybody knows all guys who are MGTOW are virgins who could never get no pussy. Everybody knows that. You would have to be an idiot not to agree with that. Everybody knows that MGTOWs are really guys who are, virgins past the age of 21, and they're just frustrated about it. Everybody knows that. See, that would be me presenting a strong opinion as if it's objective fact. when I use phrases like, everybody knows that. Everybody would have to agree with that. I would dare anybody to disagree with that. Anytime you use those type of phrases, you're trying to present subjective truth or a strong opinion as if it's objective fact. Which again is something I try to stay away from doing, although I will acknowledge for an upteenth time, I know I've slipped up and done that before. But normally when I express strong opinions, I will preface my comment by saying, in my strong opinion, or based on my own personal experiences and observations, blah. Or if I'm presenting subjective truth, I say, I believe this to be true based on my experiences, based on what I've experienced in my life. Okay, I'll give you a real life example when this happened recently. The video podcast where I brought up my fellow dating advisor, Ron Wills, who's here on YouTube. Good brother. Now see, me and Ron Wills, I was talking about respectful disagreements and disrespectful. I don't think me and Ron Wills have ever had, to at least not to this day, what I would call a disrespectful disagreement. Number one, I think on most issues related to male-female relationship dynamics, we probably agree on 85 to 90% of the stuff that's talked about. There might be 5, 10, and most maybe 15% of the stuff he talks about that I disagree with him, and same with him disagreeing with me. But we're on the same page on a lot of issues and beliefs and attitudes related to dating relationships. But there was a couple weeks ago where I had a respectful disagreement with him. He did a podcast where he more or less suggested that alpha males tend to pick on beta males. And I acknowledge that if that's been his experience and his observation, then I can't really disagree with that. I try not to argue with people's subjective truths. If somebody is presenting their subjective truth, I try my best not to argue with it. The only thing I will usually do if I'm offering a rebuttal is I will present my subjective truth that may be contrary to that person's subjective truth. And that's what I did with Ron. I basically wrote in his comment section on his YouTube page, I said, in my experience, it's basically been just the opposite. I've known more, well, he doesn't like alpha beta. He's more prefers the terms select versus non-select. So using his terminology, I said in my lifetime, in my life experience, I've seen more non-select guys try to start shit with select guys than vice versa. And that's what's been my experience. I've never had experiences where I've seen guys who were ladies' men or prolific womanizers try to bully or pick on guys who were less successful with women than them. I've literally never seen that. Unless the person who was less successful started shit with them first. Like that's happened with me. And that's why I always joke about, well, I say half joke and half seriously, tell guys, when it comes to what athletes engage in, a lot of competitive people engage in, egotistical trash talk, I always warn guys, if you've been less successful with women than I have, don't ever try to talk trash to me. Because I'm going to hurt your feelings. I'm going to leave your feelings hurt. Don't ever try to talk shit to me. Now, I won't initiate trash talk with you first. But if you try to talk shit to me, and I know you haven't been as successful with women as I am, oh, I'm going to crush your ego. I'm going to seek to destroy it. Matter of fact, let me give a shout out to Big Mike of Mac City Limits and Tony Maceo. And they had a great podcast. Tony Maceo, he broke down some shit on this podcast that was related to my whole beef issue with this other YouTube host. Tony Maceo. But Tony Maceo, he took a lighthearted dig at me And I wasn't mad at him for it. He took at least one lighthearted dig at me. He said, speaking of Ron Wills, he gave Ron Wills a lot of credit. He said, I think Ron Wills, might be the most fair and balanced dating advisor on YouTube. And, he's pretty much drama free, and the main thing he pointed out, he said, Ron doesn't rub his nuts in men's faces like Alan Roger Currie does. He said that's the one difference between Rob and Alan Roger. And he said Alan Roger Currie, I think a lot of reason why a lot of guys give him so much negative feedback here on YouTube is he has a tendency at times to just rub his nuts, figuratively speaking, rub his nuts in men's faces. And what he's referring to is when I go into what I call egotistical trash talk mode. But I do. Now, I don't do that with my clients. I think my clients know that. I never do that with my loyal followers, fans, supporters, clients. No, I don't try to rub anything in their faces. I'm trying to teach them. I want them to be better men. Because I wouldn't be able to be a dating coach for 10 plus years if I wasn't in the business of genuinely helping men. And most people know how much of a passion I have for my clients. Sasha Dagan among other people, gave me that kudos when I spoke in London and Berlin. He said Alan Roger Currie has a passion for helping his clients. This dude, David X, bless his heart, David X gave me that kudos when we spoke together in London. David X was like, man, I've been around a lot of dating coaches, but I've never seen a guy so obsessed with helping his clients the way Alan. And I really appreciated that compliment from David X. It meant a lot to me, him saying that. And the reason why he said that is because when we had a lot of downtime in London, time when we couldn't have spent just partying or goofing off, I was talking to my clients. I was doing consultations and shit. And David X was like, damn, dude, you're like a workaholic with your clients. Not to say that he isn't. David X is very dedicated to his clients as well. So I'll return the compliment. But I'm very passionate about working with my clients. So anyway, that said though, going back to Tony Maceo's comment about me, when I'm addressing what I would call my haters and critics, or people who try to challenge my credibility, like, oh man, you ain't all that. Who gave you the right to be a dating coach? You ain't nobody. Oh, dude, yeah, that's what you're going to bring out, the Alan Roger Currie egotistical trash talk. Shoot. And I can get real hardcore in that when I do. Y'all seen glimpses of it. But anyway, going back to this respectful disagreement with Ron Wills, yeah, I just let him know that based on my experiences, I've seen, again, using his terminology, select versus non-select, I've seen non-select guys try to pick fights with select guys way more than select guys picking fights or trying to bully or pick on non-select guys. That's been my experience starting with high school. So, again, bottom line, and I'm about to wrap up, just keep this in mind. This is advice that doesn't specifically have to do with dating relationships, even though I'm a dating coach. This is general life advice. Particularly if you're a person who likes to engage in a lot of discussions. Excuse me, burp number 3. Bang, burp number 4. Discussions and debates with people. Never try, 2 things. Never try to argue with people's subjective truth. Never try to argue with people's subjective truth. And see, this relates to what I said in my last video about why I don't put a lot of emphasis on scientific data, research data, and that type of shit. Because on most colleges, there's a college usually known as the College of Arts and Sciences. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that term when it relates to universities. They'll say one of our colleges on our university campus is the College of Arts and Sciences. Do most of you all know what an art is versus a science? I think most people who listen to me do. But some of you all, maybe young people or ignorant people, and when I say ignorant, that's not an insult. Ignorant just simply means you don't know something yet. Like there's a lot of things I'm ignorant about because I just don't know it yet. When you don't know something yet, that means you're ignorant to it. And so a lot of people get offended when you say, hey, who are you calling ignorant? Now, ignorant means you just don't have that knowledge yet. Now, that's to be in contrast to stupid. Stupid is when somebody has given you knowledge and you ignore it. For example, if I tell you, hey, don't touch that stove because it's hot, and you touch the stove anyway and you burn your finger, that's stupid. But if you happen to touch the stove not knowing that it was hot, you just didn't know and you touched it, you say, oh my God, that's hot, it burned my finger. That's ignorant. You didn't know. You didn't know. So I just want to make that clear. But College of Arts and Sciences, there's a difference between an art and a science. Big difference between an art and a science. I don't want to get overly intellectual, overly academic, and also I don't want to get too lengthy because I'm hungry than a motherfucker and I got to get something to eat. I'm trying to wrap this shit up. This is longer than I expected. See, science, if I had to put it in really, really simple layman's terms, science is all about trying to predict things with accuracy. Predict results, reactions, and responses with accuracy. Precision accuracy. That's what science is about. Science is about conducting experiments and research that will ultimately conclude with you. I hate when pop-ups come on my damn. I have to turn off my pop-ups. Excuse me. But yeah, in a nutshell, people who work in the sciences, again, without getting lengthy, too academic, too intellectual, they want to get to a point where they can be able to say, if you do this, this, and this will be your result 98.3% of the time. Or this will be your result 82.6% of the time. Or this will be your result 67.3% of the time. That's what science is about. They want to be able to conclude that if you follow this formula, if you follow these steps, you will get this reaction, this result, this response, this percentage of the time. So, give a quick example. Science would want to say, if Steph Currie shoots the ball 15 times in the fourth quarter, he's going to hit 75% of those shots. That's what scientists would want to conclude. That we've run studies and found that if Steph Currie shoots the ball 15 times in the fourth quarter of a game, he's going to hit 3/4 of those shots. And so if you try to come to that conclusion, again, you have to conduct research, you got to conduct experiments so you can prove that. Now we switch to art. Art is more subjective. Art is all over the place. You notice my book is not called, ooh, say it again, examining the science behind verbal seduction. You notice that's not the title. It's not called, ooh, say it again, examining the science of verbal seduction. Because see, let's say for argument's sake, I was to title my book that. If I was to title my book, ooh, say it again, examining the science of verbal seduction, then what that would mean is, what I would have to present in my book is research data that confirms and validates that if you do this, this, and this with your verbal communication skills, that you will leave a woman sexually aroused 90% of the time, or 75% of the time, or 52.6% of the time. That's what I would have to prove if I was to call it, ooh, say it again, examining the science of verbal seduction. That would essentially be like me saying, hey fellas, I pretty much guarantee you if you do this, this, and this, you're going to get this result this percentage of the time. If I was approaching verbal seduction from a scientific perspective, that's what I would have to present to you. But my book is called, ooh, say it again, Mastering the Fine Art of Verbal Seduction. Ooh, say it again, Mastering the Fine Art of Verbal Seduction. And what that means in simple terms is, when I classify verbal seduction as more of an art form than a science, that's basically saying in layman's terms that some guys who I work with and teach them how to improve their verbal communication skills and improve their erotic dirty talk skills, they're going to go out and be able to seduce women like that. They're going to be having sex with women left and right. But there's another group of guys that I might work with, and I might give them the same knowledge, same wisdom, same insight, same advice, and they might only have success with 1 out of every 20 women they come across. And honestly, that has been the truth of my life as a dating coach. I can name many times where I say I've worked with 2 clients in the same month, and I give both of those clients the exact same tutelage, the exact same coaching, exact same advice, and one of those 2 clients will write me a few weeks later saying, oh my God, Alan, you've changed my life. You've totally transformed my life, man. I can never thank you enough. I think I'm going to name my first son, Alan Roger. That's how much you've helped me out, man. I've been fucking women like left and right, and just recently I met a woman who I think I'm ready to propose to because I love her that much, and her sex is just fantastic. Man, all your coaching was invaluable to me, man. I cannot thank you enough. And then that other client who I work with that same month will write me a few weeks later and say, hey, Alan, I think I might have to do another consultation with you because things are just not going well for me. I'm being straightforward with women. I'm doing my best job of being, verbally seductive with women, but the women, they just not clicking with me. And see, that's why I don't guarantee anything. I've had people ask me like, Alan, I know it's compared to some pickup artists, you don't offer, like I've seen pickup artists, they'll have on their website, if you work with me for the next 5 weeks, I guarantee you will have sex with 5 women within the first 2 months after I work with you. Man, you ain't gonna never catch me putting no guarantee like that on my website. Ever. Ever. And most pickup artists who have put those type of guarantees, it's usually come back to hurt them. I've seen it. I've seen message boards. That's one of the reasons why you had that website I always talk about, PUA hate. That's one of the very reasons why that website, that message board was developed. Man, do you know PUA hate used to have literally millions of guys coming to that message board daily, or at least weekly, if not daily? Millions of guys. And people wonder why I used to go over there and post. Shoot, I was trying to attract clients. There was millions of guys used to go over to PUA hate. But that's one of the reasons why PUA hate was formed. Because it was a lot of PUAs that had not only just gave guys hope that they would be able to help them, but a lot of PUAs would guarantee guys, like, if you work with me, I guarantee you that you're going to be an overnight ladies man or an overnight womanizer. I don't ever guarantee no clients that shit. I don't sell no magic pills, man. I tell you guys out there all the time, I don't sell magic pills. But see, if I was to categorize verbal seduction as a science, again, if the title of my book was, Ooh said again, examining the science behind verbal seduction, then that's when I would pretty much have to offer a guarantee like that. Because I would have to propose that if you do this, this, and this, you're going to, with your verbal communication skills and your erotic dirty talk skills, you're going to leave this percentage of women sexually aroused. But art, singing is an art. Acting is an art. Playing a musical instrument is an art. Playing a sport is an art. Painting is considered a fine art. Sculpting with clay, sculpting is considered a fine art. Those are things that are arts, man. Now, you can teach art. Like, you can teach, if I wanted to, I could teach people how to be a screenwriter. I have experience being a screenwriter. I could teach people how to be a screenwriter. I could teach people how to be an actor, because I used to be an actor. So I can teach people the fundamental skills of acting, the fundamental skills of screenwriting. But I couldn't teach a guy to be a screenwriter on the level of Aaron Sorkin. I couldn't teach a man to be an actor on the level of Denzel Washington. I couldn't teach an actress, a woman, how to be an actress on the level of Meryl Streep. Because that's an art form, man. I couldn't teach, I know the fundamentals of basketball, but I can never teach anybody to be the next LeBron James or the next Steph Curry. Those are art forms, man. Those are art forms. Never confuse. And the problem, and then I'm going to wrap up. The problem with a lot of people in the dating and relationships field, particularly among the highly intellectual types, a lot of highly intellectual types who involve themselves in this industry, they want to always try to direct stuff as a science. They want to try to find out the science of attraction, the science of verbal seduction, the science of sexual arousal. And see, this relates to what I said in my very last video podcast, why I'm not into all that scientific shit, that research data shit, because it's bullshit. I ain't gonna say all of it is, but a lot of it is bullshit, man. You're trying to take something that's very subjective and make it extremely objective. You can't do that with human nature, man. You can't do that with human nature. I'm telling you, mark my words, you cannot do that with human nature. It's just, I'll give you a quick, going back to that scenario I used. Remember when I had the two guys engaged in a discussion and debate about which gender is hornier for sex? Is it men or women? And I said each one of those guys had their own subjective truth. Now let's say an evolutionary psychologist got involved, or some other kind of research scientist got involved. And he said, I'm going to survey 100 men who all have had sexual experiences with at least 20 women, and I'm going to see what they say. And let's say 80% of those 100 guys had experiences just like the guy who had to plead for sex and beg for sex. And then 20 of his 100 guys had the experiences of the guy who dealt with the real horny women. See, what that research scientist would end up doing is objectively concluding that women are less horny for sex than men are, based on his survey of 100 men. And he would present that as an objective fact. But I would be one to argue that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Because you got 80 guys who had experiences that were far different from those other 20 guys. In other words, what if it was flipped? What if it was flipped? What if 80 of the 100 guys involved in that research study had the experiences of the guy who dealt with all the horny women, and you only had 20 guys who had the experience of the guys who had to plead with women for sex? Then you would have to present the objective fact that women are hornier for sex than men. See, you understand that? It's bullshit. You can't present something as an objective fact based on a very skewed sample. That's why, again, I don't want to undermine anybody's career if they're a research scientist or evolutionary psychologist. You know, I try to respect everybody's career. But generally, man, I stay away from that studies and survey bullshit, man. Because, I said this earlier in this video podcast. I don't like when people try to present subjective truth as objective fact. I hate that shit, man. I would literally, when it comes to discussions and debates with people, that's one of my top 2 to 3 biggest pet peeves, man. Is when people try to present subjective truth and or strong opinions as objective fact. It's bullshit, man. It's bullshit. I don't care how many surveys are done that say women are less horny for sex than men are. That ain't been my experience. That ain't been my experience, so I'm not going to agree with that research data. I don't care if you lined up 100 evolutionary psychologists that all said to me, Alan, I'm sorry, our research shows that women want sex less than men. I'm going to argue with every 100 of those evolutionary psychologists and say, that ain't been my experience. That ain't been my experience. It's just like, one more note, and then for sure, damn, I'm going longer. I'm going to wrap up. Big Mike, he was talking about this on that podcast that I liked, that he did on Max City Limits. Him and Tony Maceo were chopping it up. And he said something related to what I'm talking about. He said, man, I've worked in the porn industry. And he said, I've also worked with male strippers. He said, man, women be going nuts over male strippers. He said, these women be going crazy over these motherfuckers, man. He said, any guy who believes women are less horny for sex are men who've never been around women when they're in the company of male strippers. And I agree with that. I remember when I was in college, I want to say this was summer of 1985. Now, I'm going to do a little tooting of my horn. Now, I'm kind of chunky right now. Even though I work out pretty regularly, I'm pretty chunky right now. But this particular summer of 85, anybody knew me in real life, I was cut. I had probably like about, 5% body fat. I was very lean, muscular. My physique I had it going on, let's put it that way. And a couple of female friends who were working at a lingerie shop in Bloomington, Indiana, they were going to have this lingerie show for women. And most of the models were women modeling lingerie, but they hired 3 guys. It was me and 2 other guys that were male models. And we were modeling like a G-string and whatever else. Man, I got to tell you, man, these women was... If you've ever seen, and I think most guys have seen this, if you've ever seen a video, if you've never been around them live, I'm sure just from the internet you've seen videos of women when they're say at a back. Like I had a good friend when I lived in Los Angeles. He was a male stripper for a while. Man, when women know that they're just around other women, man, they lose their minds, man. They lose their minds, man. I give you one story. There was this. If anybody's from the Chicago area, there used to be this club called Chick Rick House. I don't know if it's still open. I don't think it is. But it used to be a popular club in the 80s and 90s. Chick Rick House on Michigan. And in the back, they used to have these bulletin boards. I told this story once or twice on Blog Talk Radio. They used to have these bulletin boards where they would, post like upcoming events and pictures about past events and upcoming events. And they used to have this male stripper review. They used to come to the club. This back room in the club, they would use it for this male stripper review. Once every 3, 4, or 5 weeks. They would have this male stripper review. And they would show the pictures of the events. Now, and so I was looking at the pictures, and I saw one picture, they had it what looked like an advertisement, but then on top of the advertisement, it said cancel. They had a big cancel notice. So this brother was walking by who I knew worked for the club, and I just was curious. I said, hey, not that I was interested in checking out these events, because I know that's for women, even though I wouldn't mind hitting on all these women I see in these pictures. But I said, why did they cancel this male stripper review? He just was like, man, he just started shaking his head. I was basically like, what? And he was like, bruh, have you ever been in a room with women and male strippers, or maybe even like just like a bachelorette party or something like that? And at the time, I was like, no, not really, no. He said, man, let me tell you something, man. He said, man, people think we're the sexual ones, talking about men. He said, people think we're the ones who are always horny and shit for sex. He said, man, all you got to do is work with male strippers, man. These bitches lose their minds, man. I said, really? He said, oh, dude. And matter of fact, I told him about the story I just told you about when I was this lingerie model in Bloomington. I told him about that. He said, okay, you know what I'm talking about. He said, man, we had to literally cancel it. I said, really? He said, man, these bitches was coming, jumping on the stage, literally virtually raping these dudes. And he said, I don't use that word lightly. He said they were literally raping these dudes, man. They was pulling off their G-strings, and they would just start sucking on their dicks or stroking their dicks, and then they would lift up their dresses or skirts and just sit on these dudes' dicks and start fucking them. It was out of control. Like our security, we didn't even have enough security personnel to prevent this shit. He was like, dude, if the situation was flipped, it would have been a bunch of dudes serving prison time for rape. He literally said this. He said, man, these women were raping these dudes, man. He said women are out of control sexually. Hey, I thought I turned off my phone. So, all that to say, again, on that specific discussion about which gender is hornier, dude, I don't care how many evolutionary psychologists or whatever experts who study, sexuality between the genders, if anybody would suggest to me that women are less horny for sex than men, every time I'm going to call bullshit. Every time I'm going to call bullshit on that assertion. Now, if that's been your subjective truth, I'm not going to argue with it. If you say, based on your experiences, you have come to the conclusion that women want sex less than men do, I won't argue with that. You ain't going to get an argument. If you preface it by saying, hey, Alan, in my experience, based on my own experiences, I would have to conclude that women don't want sex as much as men do. That's when you get no argument or debate from me. But if you try to present it as an objective fact and say something like, oh, all men know that women don't want sex as much as men do. Oh, anybody with half a brain knows that men are hornier for sex than women are. Bullshit. I'm going to always call bullshit on that. Always call bullshit on that. Always, every single time to the day I die, I'm going to call bullshit on that. Because that ain't never been my experience, dude. Again, almost every woman I've dealt with in my life, at minimum, was just as horny. Dude, let's take it beyond physical sex to phone sex. And everybody know my phone sex history. I get paid for phone sex. Dude, there is not a day, literally, and I'm not just saying this to toot my horn, but I'm saying this seriously. There is not a day that goes by that I don't get at least 2 to 3 text messages from a woman wanting me to phone fuck her. I've had some days, literally some days, where I've gotten as many as like 25 to 30 text messages in like a 24-hour period of women wanting me to have phone sex with them. Women who live in different cities across the country. Now, most people would think men would be similar to people who think men would be hornier for physical sex. A lot of people would think men would be the ones who would be more horny for phone sex than women. Shit. I know for a 2,000% fact that ain't true. Shit, women be blowing my phone the fuck up for phone sex. Shit, they be blowing my phone the fuck up for phone sex. That's why I had to start charging, man. Why do you think I charge a lot of women for phone sex? Anyway, hashtag. Not all subjective truth is objective truth. Not all subjective truth is objective truth. Keep that in mind. Again, most of the commentary I give to you is specifically related to dating and relationships. Today, the commentary I'm giving you is just related to life in general. That should be helpful to you just as a human being. Particularly, again, if you're the type of person that likes to engage in a lot of spirited debates with people about different issues and topics. Never confuse and conflate subjective truth with objective truth. And a lot of people have a bad habit of presenting subjective truth as objective fact, and it's not. All right, I'll talk to you guys next week, probably Monday or Tuesday of next week. I'll go back to my regular format, which is I'll have a brief portion that's free to the general public, and the remaining portion will be for my $5 Patreon subscribers, my $5 Patreon subscribers. Talk to you next week.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.